All right, welcome everybody to Oceanside Library's Poetry Near and Afar. We're delighted to have two phenomenal poets here with us tonight, and we will be offering the open mic as always. Oceanside Library is proud to continue this virtual poetry series that we started, I guess, pretty much the week after we shut down for COVID. And we're looking forward to continuing this. We also are already in the plannings for our April. April is Poetry Month, and the Oceanside Library always runs not only a number of poetry readings, but we also always offer at least something for poets, kind of the functioning end of poetry. So we in the past we've done how to get published, another one how to ramp up your public speaking, those kinds of things, and we'll be offering that type of program again. So without any further ado, I offer you our poet from afar, Barbara Marie Minney.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you to the Oceanside Library for inviting me to share my poetry tonight. I'm honored to be the poet from afar, as we say in West Virginia. I'm going to begin with a selection of poems from my collection, If There's No Heaven, which was the winner of the 2020 Poetry is Life, a book award, and an Akron Beacon Journal Best Northeast Ohio book in 2020. The first poem is called Bubble Wrap. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, raw and exposed, arms wrapped tightly around my body, giving myself a hug. There's no one else around to do it. Searching for words of comfort that will clothe my naked emotions lost somewhere in the fogginess of my brain. All I hear is, it is never enough. I am never enough. The past is never really past, especially the mistakes haunting the halls of my mind long after they were made, or used like a war club, beating myself to a bloody pulp. Being hard on myself does not make me a better person, only defeated more. All I hear is, it is never enough. I am never enough. I've gone far beyond what my father thought I could. Doing my best was never good enough. Sometimes I dreamed of being perfect, but even that is not enough. Lying in bed in the dark, trying to go to sleep, mind racing like a hamster on a running wheel. When she reaches for my hand and tells me she loves me, my first thought is why? How could anyone love me? All I hear is, it is never enough. I am never enough. I should swaddle myself in bubble wrap as protection against the world, but that would do no good. I would still be trapped with my own worst enemy in a cocoon of my own making, telling me it is never enough. I am never enough. I'm not even good enough to be trans with what I still have dangling between my legs. It is better to keep hidden so that I can live my life. If there's no heaven, it's all a waste of time anyway. I have found not caring anymore to sometimes be liberating. Thank you. This next poem is about my father. It's called Imperfect Strangers. It has been 3 years since you went away, and I'm just now getting around to mourning you. Is it a delayed reaction or just indifference? I guess I will never know. I just know this Christmas I missed you more than usual. You grew up a poor boy way back in a West Virginia holler, on the other side of the creek that we would cross in the car, in a shack with no electricity or running water, a fireplace the only heat, a tin roof that sang in the rain, and a porch swing, wood worn thin by tired buttocks. The woods and mountains your only toys, and a big feather bed that you would gently carry me to when my eyes could no longer stay open to listen to Grandpa's stories. You made something of yourself, just not what you had hoped. I never really knew you, the things that you did and saw, or the depth of your pain and disappointment, nor you mine. You only knew the boy and the man you molded me to be, not the woman I've become. But you gave me the courage to become her. Mom never knew how much we were alike, sharing the same heart. I still pray at night for signs of your presence. Like the two mourning doves sitting side by side on the deck railing, you and Mom together. I will never forget how much you cried when she died. I guess after all these years, I'm still craving your approval. Thank you. The next poem is called The Road Most Traveled. I took the road most traveled for most of my life, marching to the beat of the same drummer as thousands of others, measuring my worth by work I did, money I made, things I acquired, success I achieved, until I encountered the orange barrels, the flagger directing me to the detour that turned out to be a dead end. Only then did I veer off on another road, the one less traveled, where I picked up a ragged hitchhiker that turned out to be me. Thank you. The next poem is called Riding a Dead Horse. Riding that horse as far as it would go, plodding through Death Valley like a lost cowboy in a grainy black and white Western, bones bleaching in the sun, half buried by the swirling sands, Ronald Reagan narrating in the background. 60 years wandering through the arid wasteland on a horse that was already dead. Sunburned skin blistering in the flare of the sun, searching for the watering hole that would quench my dry, parched soul. That horse should have been put out of its misery long ago, laid to rest in a holy sepulcher, revered for carrying me so long until finding the silver stallion, vanquishing the evildoers, riding off into the sunset with a hearty hi-yo silver. Thank you. The last poem from If There's No Heaven that I'm going to read is called Ripples. Dawn is always the loneliest hour of the day. Disappointments of yesterday, clashing with promises of today, like armies on a battlefield. The sun beginning to peek through the curtains as if it's a curious child. The pathway behind is part of my life now. Canyons and peaks leading to the pinnacle, chasing the wind through the cascade of light toward the obscurity of death. I lie on my deathbed 1,000 times, being reawakened each day with the freedom of knowing it is never too late to start over. To matter enough to make a difference, riding the harsh waves of life, leaving a legacy in my wake. Risk brought me to this moment, constantly boxing my shadow until we both are drained, crossing piranha-infested waters in a leaky lifeboat with no life preserver, ready to die daily, only to be reborn. A poet always sees ghosts and drinks champagne when she's sad, dealing with the hard things in life that need talking about. If only there was someone to talk to. How many times can God save me? Being brave is not enough. What is brave about living authentically? Like a Venn diagram, we are all connected, mirrors for each other, surprised to see parts of ourselves in the broken eyes of others. Ready to die daily, being born again for the very first time, moving out of my comfort zone, opening up another world, inspiring others, like a flat rock on the calm, clear surface, creating a really big ripple that touches foreign shores. Thank you. I'm going to read a couple of poems from my poetic memoir chapbook. The first one is called Violaceous. Purple comes in many colors, royal hues enduring a lifetime, lilacs flaming out in the fading blue-violet ambience of the setting sun, bluish red for only a split second, or maybe a season, short gasps of periwinkle breath, lavender on the coffin. Thank you. This next poem is about my mother, and it may be a little tricky. It's in 3 parts. It's called The Cardinal Still Sings. 1. I made several attempts to write a poem about my mother. I've never been able to do it. I don't know why. 2. Mother loved birds, feeding the live ones, collecting the porcelain ones. Display cases breathing with an array of dazzling colors, birds of every type and description, still and in flight. I did not keep a single one. A lifetime of love discarded at auction, like dead birds in a cardboard box left on the street corner for someone else to pick up and bring back to life. 3. The old folks say when a cardinal appears in your yard, it is a visitor from heaven. You were a believer in old wives' tales, passed down through the ages by our foremothers. Tales about lying cows, turned up leaves, and rain. Is that you, Mom, singing on the tree limb outside my window, paying me a visit from your perch in heaven, reassuring me that there is more after death, that you were still nearby, still nurturing and loving me? Thank you. This next poem is called Resilience. I need to know I'm not an imposter acting in a play, playing a part written for someone else. I'm blue as the bluest blues ever written. The worried notes in the groove of the 12-bar chord progression scratching through my head like an old 78 on an antique store turntable. Sanctuary is nowhere to be found. An uncaring world so overwhelming, its dark voice asking me to give more of myself than I have left to give, leaving me feeling so insignificant. Showing up, finding the lovely bits of the world is never enough. The storm always rages, the taste of rain in my mouth, the savagery of the wind in my face. Enough is enough. I am the author of my own play, my own leading lady, my own heroine. These next 3 poems are a little edgier and may have some triggers. The first one is, that was 12 years ago. She was drunk again, empty Grey Goose bottles abandoned under the guest room bed, like babies left on the steps of an orphanage. He was oblivious for a long time, stumbling around like a blind man without his white cane. He could hear her uncomfortable weeping as he sat in the living room reading The Shack and listening to Alleluia over and over and over, wishing she was there to cut his hair. Not that he needed a haircut, but he did crave her touch. What a way to spend New Year's Eve, he thought. The fallout from the violent argument hanging over his head like a cartoon mushroom cloud, glassy air cutting through his heart. Reigned over by a fickle God, marriages are sloppy, smacking down whatever he wishes. The only glory worth a shit is that conquered in the blackness of the soul. Just another fucked up marriage on the scaffolding of divorce, which deep down, neither of them wanted. His sobs joining hers in a chorus of anguish. Almost losing her to a stroke, rushing out of my office, speeding to the hospital, worry sweat sticky in my armpits, staining through my blue shirt, deathly terrified of losing the thing most precious to me. Later, I poured all the booze down the toilet, thinking the sewer rats will be partying tonight. Thank you. This next poem is called Rainbow on the bathroom rug, Akron Pride. I've lived a whole lifetime as someone I wasn't, wandering through gender-sensitive backcountry, from the hills and hollers of West Virginia, the grasslands and cornfields of Ohio, through Stonewall and Pulse, making it to Akron, like my Appalachian kinfolk during the great exodus north on the Hillbilly Highway, looking for a better life in the rubber factories of Goodyear, Goodrich, and Firestone. I was searching for something too, not knowing what it was. The rainbow appeared suddenly, the afternoon sun's reflection on the bathroom rug, a sign that I had chased the rainbow logic, revealing myself on the other side, more treasured than any pot of leprechaun gold. Coming together for one day, celebrating our diversity, letting the world know we have survived another year. We are still here. We are not going away. A chance to rejoice in my own uniqueness. A chance to cry. A sacred experience like a dream sequence, fading in a misty haze, the crowd cheering for the choices I have made. I may have wandered through a lifetime as someone I wasn't. Now, in whatever time I have left on this earth, I'm home. Thank you. This next poem is called The Funky Skunk. It's in two parts. 1, grimy and faceless in lifeless Warren, Ohio. A picture of the funky skunk should have been alongside the definition of dive bar in Merriam-Webster. Dark aroma of urine, sour beer, and mold. Site of monthly girls' night out. Crowded with cross-dressers, tranny chasers, and significant others. Pool tables, drag shows, cheap club soda. Probably cheap beer too, but I wouldn't know about that. Vivacious bartender in bleached wife beater. Sweat on her benevolent cleavage ablaze in dazzling neon beer signs. Thunder's industrial music, pulse steady as a heartbeat. Marilyn, Debbie, and Crystal sat at my side, raspy from shouting to be heard over the clamor. Daydream emotions of refuge, protection, and safeness. 2, it was Transgender Day of Remembrance. I was reading a poem in church when news came from across the country. An attack on another sanctuary, Club Q in Colorado Springs. Dancing and celebrating, pleasure and gaiety, enjoyment and excitement. Gunfire mistaken for notes of music. Muzzle flashes like firecrackers in the murkiness. Hidden behind the bar and dressing rooms, or despairingly grasping the ground in each other. Deeply thumping heart of the community ripped out and tossed away. 5 brothers and sisters killed. Derek Rump, Daniel Aston, Kelly Loving, Ashley Paul, Raymond Green Vance can never be forsaken. Evil can be overcome with faith. Fear can be the beginning of wisdom. There is power in love. Freedom can never be shot away. I'm going to end with 2 poems that are on the lighter side. How much? Oh, okay. I guess I've just about exhausted my time, so I'm just going to read one more.
No, Bob.
Nope. All
Take
right.
take the 2. You're fine.
18 minutes. Actually.
Oh, 18 minutes. My counter over here can't read.
It doesn't make a difference. We'd love to hear both poems.
I'm going to read a couple of my Appalachian themed poems. The first one is Country Hill Music, which is actually dedicated to my grandma, Minney. Country Hill Music. Men in faded and tattered coveralls, plaid shirts, sleeves rolled up to the elbows. Women in threadbare gingham dresses, faces shadowed by the fading light. Sitting on front porches of dilapidated cabins, After a long day struggling in the fields, behind horse-drawn plows, slicing fiddles and banjos, listening to country hill music, reverberating through the hollers. Recognition hovering like dandelion fluff, just out of reach, swimming on the white caps of the notes. The boy, no longer there, gingerly holding the neck of a 5 and dime store guitar, crossing the murky creek on a bridge of rough-hewn logs, remnants of the spring washout. Sneaking off to look at girly magazines hidden under the floor of the old corn crib, choking on cigarettes and moonshine behind the barn, picking pawpaws and blackberries in the hills, shooting crawdads in the creek with a brand new BB gun, fishing in the pond with bamboo poles and shiny bobbers, squirrel gravy simmering on the wood stove, perfume of fresh baked biscuits filling the senses, shivering on the way through the potato patch to the outhouse. Where did that boy go? Life was simpler then, just harder. You cannot lose your soul so easily. If you listen closely in the dead of a starless night, Grandma's words still echo through the hollers. Don't get above your raisin. I always end my sets with my wife, Marilyn's favorite poem. We've been married for over 41 years now. And for some reason, she fell in love with this poem. I usually get emotional when I read it, so I'll try to get through it without doing that. The poem is called Tomato Sandwich. It's simple, really. A red, ripe Marietta tomato cut into slices, placed between 2 pieces of bread. Add a little mayo, and you have a tomato sandwich. But there's much more to it than that. Memories garnish those wedges of bread, formed and to be formed, consumed and to be consumed, just like the sandwiches. The nectar tickling my chin, brushing against the earthy herbal scent of Grandma's tomato plants, carefully staked in neat rows in the small field next to the old wooden outhouse. A 2-seater with last year's Sears and Roebuck Christmas catalog toilet paper. Always wondering if the location made the tomatoes grow better. The lusty smell of the outhouse mingling with the warm, savory scent of the plants, creating the aroma of summer and tomatoes yet to come. I don't have kids to share these stories with, but I have a wife, cityfied, but the love of my life. Maybe the only person I've ever really loved, or who has ever really loved me back. Love dies easily for me, and it is always a hard birth, sometimes even a stillbirth. But there's always the one that was brought to me as if by wonder, picnicking by a quivering brook, the only one that I share my tomato sandwich with. Thank you so much. Again, thank you to the Oceanside Library and Tony for inviting me to be the reader from afar. And thanks to you all for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. That was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You can unmute yourselves, give her a nice round of applause. Simply great. There you go. Thank you very much, Barbara. All right. Yep. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. Thank you so much. All right. Again, I will tell you that if you do not want to be in the open read, please want to stop it. I went to the wrong thing. Remove spotlight. There we go. Okay. That's all right. Well, it'll wind up being 2 recordings. We'll mush them together. Listen, again, if you do not wish to be in the open mic, please throw your name into the chat, and I will take you off of this list. We have 27 people in here now, soon to be 28, because Terry is coming in, and she says that she's a friend of Doreen, so I guess it's right on time. All right, so without any further ado, our poet from near, a great, great, great friend of the Oceanside Library, a great friend of the poetry community here on Long Island. Without any further ado, Dee Spungin.
Thank you so much. And let me make sure. I am unmuted now, right?
Yes, you're all good to go.
Tony, thank you so much for inviting me to read. Barbara, I am honored to be on the same list with you today. That was incredible. Really wonderful. And to all of you here, hi. Good to see everybody. I hope everybody is well. So I begin. Empty this poet's heart. An epigraph without atmosphere, a painting is nothing. Rembrandt. Surrounded, this nothing cloaks me, and I am without poem. Without poetry, therefore empty and not able to face a cold universe. Without you, I am unable. Life's cold edge cuts the knife of penance, the punishment unfit for crimes not committed. For how to break laws that are lawless, and how to paint pictures that are empty. No poem, no right and wrong. Right or wrong, no atmosphere of pressure, no dead lines in the sand. Stop. A bird flies overhead, breaking silence and rules all at once. Pen, come to hand. Paper, lie down and wait. Oh, poem, come to me. So the next poem, the title of this poem was borrowed with permission from one of my granddaughters, who posted this several years ago, probably on Facebook, a severe case of the January. Toppling over the flipped page, the sun already sets later. Small changes float me through the winter months. I avoid flu and ice, guard flesh, and none too soon a warmth to bathe the winter soul. My outlook bright beneath the wool. I hearken to the call of spring. It's not too soon for dreaming neath coverlets of Jan and Feb, the seeds of rebirth steaming. This one, Collecting Sorrows. I have been collecting sorrows, how heavy, dark the blood. I look behind my eyes for wishes drowned in rivers' mud. Perhaps you know an alchemist, magician, god, or witch, someone who can change this weight, a wand or simple switch to make a thing of lasting joy, lovely like the sun. Perhaps I need to look away. Perhaps I need to run. The fairy tales of childhood are turning into rain. I've been collecting sorrows, our world's collecting pain. So a little antidote to the sad part, a little break here. Pinpoints. Darkness announces endings until pinpoints appear through an open window. I spy the crescent moon against a cold night sky. Sounds are muffled. I sense footsteps. In the black backyard, pinpoints of light, a distant barking dog, and the haunting of a train whistle. My door creaks open. The moon sits on my bed. I am ready to listen. Moon opens a book. Pinpoints light the page. The story begins in velvet tones. I ask the moon why his voice is a muffled bark. The train whistle answers me in mournful tones, and I sleep. But don't go to sleep yet. This one is appearing currently in Long Island Quarterly, a part of Poetry Bay, George Wallace. It's an online e-zine, and a lot of good stuff in it. Pinching the Skin of Night. I imagine us dancing, moon lighting the way, tree frogs providing symphony. I used to dream this moment. Our feet stepped on starlit lily pads. We wall circles around pine trees, dip toes in the cool night water. In the darkness, I'd always find your lips as nightbirds trilled love. I saw your smile, felt it on my mouth. We raced the clouds, made a path to heaven, breathless, falling on the grass and joyful. This was love and youth. The skin of night, our blanket, the stars, our guide. Promises carried us beyond reality. Fingertips made vows we never meant to break. My husband is not here, and that was not about him or anybody. Noise releases planet. There's hope in the silence of a moon gone rogue. Gather roses and dead things. Burying is a tribute to completion. Winning becomes the piece of hearts, a card no one seems to deal. Questions written on a tombstone, answers sung in trees. I quit the game, take my fishing rod, find that trail I lost in childhood. Butcher. The butcher shop, sides of beef dangle from silver hooks. His apron, a bloody fingerprint painting, The rolls of white paper wait for customers. A piece of steak, marbled, richly red, icy cold, will be rolled in white, a bride waiting for her honeymoon night. Sawdusted floor, the smell masks the newly dead. Former grass-chewing, mild-mannered cows, poor creatures born to die, to keep us going, to the butcher shop, to keep the butcher going. Vegetarians responsible for keeping cows alive are killing butchers slowly. And this is Alien. He wakes in strange bed again, tries language, still fails. Runs water over brain, hopes to wake cells, no response. Dons earth clothes, takes the train to nowhere. Loneliness runs through her. Another day lost to nothing. She knows how to cry. Tears wet her palms. She prays. Alien knows how to pray. So as much as I love writing poetry, I get a big kick out of the titles. And this one is one of my favorites, the title. Unremarkable hangers hold clothes unfit to attend weddings. But I wear them anyway. Yellowed skirts, faded blouses, shoes with gaping holes. In summer, it won't matter. Winter threatens us with unbearable light. I cannot hold back the storms. In an old closet, dresses for unfit weather. In time, a lot covered with fallen angels. In time, we join the society of the fallen, wear our sorry cloaks. We sit at a barren bus stop, wait for no one to return. We are the forgotten in holy shoes, yellowed with age. We are. This one is called Sacre et Profane, which is French, sacred and profane, and is the title of a piece by Claude Debussy. Claude Debussy on the radio. I might have said turntable, and you'd smile at my lagging technology. Keeping up with the excessive pace of modern life, those who bow at the altar of new gods become slaves. I pray to a God I cannot see. No animation, 3D, multi-track message, worshiping the immediate, tomorrow's invention already old. My mirror images trade me for someone who lives over the hill. Content with Debussy on the radio, turntable, the live concert, a book made of paper, a God who made everything else. My prayers lift me from the profane into the sacred sphere of music. And the lateness of an hour gives space its meaning. And I want to say before I read this to Barbara and the rest of you, Robert Frost Road is getting a workout this evening. Pretend at the bend in the road less traveled, the road I wish I had chosen, this ceasing of returning light. I watch you through a window, its clarity, my answer, my mirror, yours. a bouquet of stars, your gift in exchange for love. When I gaze into faces I trust, there appears a hand to grab as we hurtle through the space between hearts. A world divided, we spin in the orbit, a distance apart, challenged to find union. We linger at the wall, search for openings, 2 hearts, 3, 4. A universe sings. Are we listening? Open your hands, catch the goodness before the lights go out. So a little bit of weather here. This is called We Bring You. I'm inside the weather report, mouth downturned, the child desperate not to cry, a hiding. Clap my hands over ears, screaming against the tide. Puny humans, brilliant a moment ago, until the report, crashing, breaking the road. Wouldn't it be nice? Daily dusting, such a bore, I'm taunted by the shovel, empty, a backbreaker. I bow before science, scoff behind its back. Fools, they can't even stop the weather. But rejoice, take a ride to the moon. Childhood snow invites laughter. I'm piled upon the old snowbank, aiming at the sky. My ammunition between a prayer and a willingness to accept. Snowflakes kiss me in a language I forgot when I grew up, too old. Misread intentions. I step on a scale of 1 to 10. Store detectives look the other way. Scales have never been my friends. I write thank you notes to the discreet. Yesterday, a nurse asked if I wished to be waited. I passed up the opportunity. Enough tears have been shed. These days, what has been held up to a new light, the oft-spoken concept of priorities. There's triage in everything. Looking at tonight's moon, I become more aware than ever of what deserves first place. And I'm going to read the book most of you have seen. From the book Tomorrow Smells Invisible, Words with Wings Press, was born in 2020. And I'll read just a few from that. First, a sense of belonging. Pumpernickel bread studded with raisins, cream cheese to smooth over the bumps and grinds of hard days. Nights are cornbread and caraway. The basket holds out its arms. A sense of understanding. Warm bread melts the hard butter. A rye bread, standard fare, describes our circle. We are the world of the ordinary, grinding our bones to bread. The maintenance of belief depending upon a jar of mayonnaise, of horseradish. The salt of affliction swims out of perspective. Consequences remain listed on a brown paper sack, that unmistakable black crayon, swift and sure. I hear the day in Potter's Field keening as my graveyard saves a place. Can you etch a name with a loaf of bread? A tooth for an eye, a fool's golden rule. Do not go easily when your number is called. The soil cries your name recklessly. There's an empty chamber you enter, a rocky terrain sounding in your ear. Lofty ambition follows you down. The fish refuse to swim with you. It is all that bread. And the raisins, they just don't belong. And I'm very grateful to Anne Cohen for having, not grateful for anything that she was going through, but that she was switching with me. I was going to read in February, but now I get to read the second of 2 January poems. Only January. Lone lily sits in forgotten water. Fishers let in too much light. Lies hover, drift dark clouds. Her heart, invisible page, she can feel the etched message. Her eyes fail to interpret. Butterfly words raise her lids to familiar colors gone before retrieval. She carries a germ of hope in a torn pocket. Is a kind of deal. Reached chases even hearty boys inside. Girls playing dumb ask for an arm around their shoulders, hoping to stoke the fires of warmth. And boys equally dumbing down to the task at hand play the role to a T. Tea time, and all is quiet and proper in the home. London time, and culture brews in a teapot, who's smoking and letting his hair grow longer than the longest day. History will serve as the backdrop, like a repeating decimal, as it decimates each generation in its 1, 2, 3 strikes out in left field. The umpire strikes back. We are doomed. The message written on that blimp, passing overhead on Rockaway Beach. The boardwalk solid with splinters we love to pluck as we sat brushing sand and salt from young skin, unhurt, at least for most of us. The darkest stories held back. All of us believing the innocence we portrayed. Psychiatrists were growing up learning the trade that would free us from the bonds of childhood. Explanations would be made, and we'd be saved. Or not. Maybe never saved. It's so clear if you fly high enough up to the blimp announcing we are doomed, and we chose not to believe. Meet ahead, blankets dragging in the sand, shovels digging, and we dug it back then. Hair longer than the longest day, the longest yard, the longing to be what some of us finally today are. And 2 more. I'm going to read this one because of the day that we are remembering Martin Luther King. Imagine waking. Imagine waking, floating in space or in an ocean, not knowing where you are, or who you are, or what you look like. Imagine meeting another being without knowing where you are, who you are, what you look like. Perhaps you would accept this other as companion, as friend, as brother or sister. Perhaps no one would carry the name enemy. Perhaps. But this is a dream. Isn't it? And I'm going to end. The book is in 4 sections. And after the last of the 4 sections is an epilogue. This poem is called One Ticket, No Transfer. 8th Avenue subway lets me grow up. I go to work to earn, to own money. I buy a pair of shoes using my first credit card. The memories still mine, and the shoes no longer. No high heel ever loved me. Unrequited yearning, peppered by envy, still living. You wear sex for shoes. I carry my birth certificate on my feet. I never could work a hula hoop. A child's art, fairies gowned in tulips. Escape from the van ordinaire reflected in mirrors. But I didn't know then about youth, its desperate beauty. Clocks hold their sides, laughing so hard they may lose a few minutes. Nothing compared to the time I have lost while learning to live. The whisked away years haunt. Grandma's coffee, sugar and milk, before I was permitted the drink, the secret sip, divine. Everything tasted better in summer. Ocean, freedom, when I had forever to grow up. Tomatoes were delicious, and voting didn't mean hatred, when hatred was a strange noun with almost no meaning. Love, trust, roses. Between birth and death, a love letter, a newspaper clipping, joy, sorrow, death, tomorrow. 8th Avenue subway, take me home. I will go barefoot. I will not be afraid. I will bring the roses with me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Woohoo! Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Doreen. There we go. All right. Well, let's see. I'll remove the spotlight. Well, the 2 wonderful features. Tremendous evening. Tremendous evening. We're going to go through the open mic now. And again, if you do not wish to read, just throw it in the chat. We have several people who have opted out. Much to my disappointment, because there's a few of you that I really would like to hear from. But we're going to go through this. The way we'll do it is I will say that somebody's on and somebody's on deck. For those of you who are not baseball fans, that means that you're next. So we're going to start with Margaret, you're up, and Christine, Barbara, you're on deck.
Thank you to Barbara and to Doreen for a great reading today. This is my poem called Forever 48. Forever 48, stalled between acceptance and denial lies the hearts you touched. Paralyzed between waking up and dreams, the morning realization you're no longer here. Frozen in time between past and future is acceptance you're gone. Birthdays and holidays pass by motionless like your mask card tucked behind a plaque. Your Instagram so still, postless and quiet as your Facebook wall. We stand looking back instead of forwards, feeling stationary like your absence. So permanent forever is. Your life just 48 chapters long, when we all know you deserved much more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Christine, you're up, and Arnold, you're on deck.
Barbara and Dee Dee, thank you so much for your words this evening. It was just beautiful. This is synchronicity. There was no wind, no hurricane or tornado. There was a man out for his morning walk, and there was an old tree nearing the end of its life, breaking apart in pieces, which took its time with the deadly descent toward earth. Before the tree branch broke and ripped the dry pulp from inside the rings, there was a sound of a subtle crack, then a wishing of wings, like the rhythmic humming that swans make as they announce their landing. If the man had stopped at home long enough to make oatmeal instead of eating cereal directly out of the box, or long enough to brush his teeth or to clean out the cat's litter box, he wouldn't have reached the spot at the same moment when the tree's limb fractured, snapped, and fell sideways to the sidewalk, where it killed an innocent man who had strained upward to see the unusual noise. When chance and coincidence collided in a cause and effect relationship to everything in the universe, a divine intelligence at work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Arnie, you're up, and Valerie, you're on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank Barbara and Doreen. You did a wonderful job. Loved hearing you. My poem is Hope for 2023. This is a year where nature held sway, where wildfires, floods, hurricanes, and cold visited each day, where viruses slammed us and took a huge toll, where some questioned science, calling it hyperbole, where madmen made war on innocent folk, where others coined a new word, a pejorative woke. And so we look forward to a better new year, where disasters, both natural and man-made, will no longer appear. For it is this hope that we hold so dear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, very good. Okay, Valerie, you're up, and Bernardo, you're on deck.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you to Dee Dee and Barbara for wonderful readings. My poem is called The Kill Shelter. Blue stars hot with light. Galaxy strays pulled by the body of hunger. A constellation of caged cats wheel into the chamber, orbit the cosmos of the gaseous box. Big black hole consumes toms, queens, and kittens. Cats spiral around themselves. Coronas glimmer, and twinkle of tapetas dwindle. Toms, queens, kittens, contracted white stars cooling as their auroric afterglow stains the ceiling of the chamber, percussed by the echoes of cold black dwarfs.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bernardo, you're up, and Robert Dean, you're on deck.
Oh, Kings and Mountains. When I was a kid, we played a game called King of the Mountain. Oh, I know some of you played the same game, only with a different name, Indie King of the Hill. But it really didn't matter because the kingdom was not real. At that time, it was about building our self-esteem. We were children with dreams tall enough to reach the moon. We'd fall down, get up, resumed our quest to reach the top. We grabbed, we pushed, we shoved. Most of us were friends caught up in wanting to win. Right then, it was not about the love. It was about those dreams. Finding self-esteem atop an imaginary mountain in a society that blatantly treated us so mean, locked us down, watched us drown, tossed us to be lost, never to be found. In this land of freedom, there was this bold-faced evil of separate but equal, but it was not. If it was hot in some park you got to play in, you couldn't even quench your thirst. More than the discomfort of no water was the hurt, facing a sign blind to your existence, denigrating your worth. So we played games where we might be on top. There we might be able to cause disgrace to stop, to chase the title, the position, the acclaim, as a child finding a state of being worthwhile in a game. To have to reach past this ridicule, to face this refrain for years, imagine the frustration, the anger, the tears. And one day there appeared a king talking about mountains. He said some wonderful things about them, how freedom would ring from Stone Mountain in Georgia to Lookout Mountain in Tennessee. He named their names, he made them real. The Rockies and the Alleghenies would proclaim us to be free. He restored our dreams on that day in '63. On that day, a dream was planted. I would not have to play King of the Mountain for the rest of my life in order to find peace. He spoke, and I believed if I tried, I might succeed, all because a king spoke of mountains.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect poem for today. All right. Robert Dean, you're up, and Emily Sue, you're on deck.
All right, well, it's been a great reading so far, Dee Dee and Barbara and everyone else who's followed it, enjoyed all your stuff. I hate it that it keeps shifting out of speaker view or into speaker view. Okay, I usually like to read current stuff, but I'm going way back to the beginning here with the poem that was one of my first published poems. It's in my first book. And it's the first poem that I consider my mature poem. It's called Birds. The word is barely out of her mouth, and the evening is full of the songs of them, the air electric with the possibility of flight. Cars, she says, and Doppler breezes of humanity, blue shift, red shift on Douglas Avenue, small bits of a universe with places to go. Life, her palms upturned in praise of time and space, and the tinnitus of years, the cacophony of what I've always thought of as language is suddenly gone. And I understand that this is the way the world talks. Not just two people on a sidewalk conversing about conversing, but the winking out of lights in a bookstore, the texture of an orange sun sinking into a violet cloud, the smell of the promise of rain, the sound of night on its way and the rending of it, the taste of the eternal on the lips of a moment. Realize with the clarity of Lazarus rising the difference between not moving and standing still. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. All right. Emily Sue is up, and Robert Rubino, you're on deck.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This has been a wonderful reading. Thank you, Barbara and Doreen, and all the open mic readers. I'm going to read one from my book, We Are Beach Glass. It's from the family section. It's called The Baker. Nanny's cigarette hung from her lips, a lengthening ash that never seemed to fall. As she sifted and sprinkled flour, folded in the butter, beat the eggs, kneaded and rolled the dough to a consistency her hands recognized as right for blintzes, cakes, and pies, pinched and prodded into pockets stuffed with farmer cheese and fruit, or layered and dressed for the occasion with icing and whipped cream. One eye closed against the curling smoke, she unfurled her stories, told in cadences practiced and perfected over a lifetime. The details have now faded, like the recipes my mother wrote down. A pinch of this, a dollop of that. Left out, the tears, the laughter, the tobacco ash. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Wonderful evening. Robert Rubino, you're up, and Judy Turk, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks to Barbara and Dee Dee for beautiful, beautiful poetry. Do-overs, and so what if it's some 60 or 65 years later? This time, making father-pleasing game-winning catch and throw instead of cringe-inducing game-losing error on Little League's rock-strewn sandlot within brain-blasted noise of LaGuardia's airports, arrivals, and departures. This time, hitting nothing but net, swish, instead of shooting a mind of its own air ball at junior varsity tryout in Jock's Socks Sweat Smell Gymnasium. This time, emoting lines like a pale Paul Robeson instead of Barney Fife-like stuttering, stammering in school play plagued by tongue-tied stage fright. This time, standing up to the playground bully instead of bowing head, backing down, peered at, pitied like slab specimen by the whole world, it seemed, including kid brother who'd idolized you, including first ever girlfriend who'd soon become first ex-girlfriend. This time things will be different. So different. Oh yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. That flashed on a lot of memories myself. Thank you, Robert. Judy, you're up, and Lloyd, you're on deck.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Dee Dee. Thank you, everyone. Especially thank you, Tony, for keeping us in poetry. So I read this last night, but for those who heard it, I'm reading it again. Impatience repaired haiku sequence. Pain radiates from shoulder to wrist, settles in my bicep. July gardens in need of mulch, impatient to wait for a landscaper. I pick up heft, haul, 47 bags home, spread in beds. I don't connect pain with do-it-yourself project until weeks later. Torn rotator cuff, bicep tear, PT becomes my religion. No relief, no choice but surgery, December 1st. Add bone spur to list, cut, cleaned out, sewn up, sent home in a sling. One-handed typing, right-handed everything, left feels left out. Left side wants to go to Tahiti without me. I wish it would. 6 weeks slinged, pain manageable, cleared to drive. In a recliner, but not sleeping, up, poeming with the moon. PT, 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 my new mantra, stretching, pushing, wincing, patience, determined to regain strength, muscle, mobility. Maybe in 6 months, I'll be able to heft a bag of mulch, but don't count on it. I'm calling a landscaper. Thank you.
There you go. All right. Thank you. Spotlight. Okay, and so Lloyd, you're up, and Alan Wolowitz, you're next. Lloyd, where are you? There you are.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Hi, everybody. This has been so wonderful so far. And this is called Baby Love. When our daughter Miriam was little and she was fussy or upset, I'd hold her tight against my chest, inhale her special baby smell, and sway with her as I crooned, "Baby love," into the soft side of her neck at a tempo slower and gentler than Diana Ross and the Supremes. Baby love, my baby love, my ooh, baby love. And I continue humming the rest of the melody, the soothing vibrations passing from me into her. In my arms, she would usually calm down and often fall back asleep. And in my arms, with my beard next to her cheek, we would be connected for all time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. All right. So Alan, you're up, and Sheila, you're on deck.
Thanks, Tony. Great reading tonight. Barbara and Doreen, just sensational. This is a poem for my mom who died 9 years ago, and kind of having a celebration for her. And it's called Esther Walking. My mother clatters down the tiled hallway, the handles of her walker clutched hard in her fists, so the wobbly wheels won't get ahead of her will and leave the rest of her behind. The PT says she'll learn to walk again, though I can tell she hasn't forgotten much. Those legs move rapidly enough, like a duck paddling beneath the surface. Still, there's no easy gliding here above the waterline. Just an old lady stuck in the swamp of herself and getting nowhere pretty fast. It could make me laugh. This, a woman I once couldn't keep up with. She would head out in the autumn dusk towards sunrise, ducking through Mrs. Becker's hedge, the shopping cart, idling quietly behind, as if it were propelling her through the night. I claimed I was coming along to help, but really couldn't bear to let her out of my sight, and was happy after all the clatter and want of home to have her to myself at last. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Sheila, you're up, and Barbara Novak, you're on deck.
Hi, everybody. Barbara, you were wonderful. And Dee Dee, of course, you were wonderful. Everybody was wonderful. That's all I can say. This poem that I'm going to read, I just found out yesterday it's that it was accepted for publication in the 10th year anniversary book Bards Against Hunger anthology. And it's called Changing Seasons. Sitting in front of the campfire, roasting marshmallows. The sun has faded away, singing songs to get us in the mood. A cool breeze blows through our hair, crackling sounds as the lights flicker. The burnt smell of toasty marshmallows. The stars are looking down on us. The moon appearing in the sky. A beautiful night of wondrous thoughts. Relaxing, calm, lost in the moment. Now, once again, I am sitting by the fire. There's a chill in the air. I wrap myself with a cozy, warm blanket, for now the summer has left us. No more sitting outside by the fire, watching the flames dancing in the fireplace, telling us that winter has arrived. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you. All right. Barbara Novak, you're up. Vinny, you're on deck.
Okay, well, thank you for this wonderful evening of poetry. It's the first time I've been able to join you this cycle. And Barbara, Doreen, moving, powerful poems. So I appreciate it very much. The poem I'm going to read is called The Farther Shore. I gaze across at what I can't see, the expanse vast, the earth curves, light bends. We are all connected, balancing on the lattice work, flexible like a fishnet, only connection holding us in place. But that is flexible too, the rubber band of time, of relationship. Does it snap back into place, us with it, or just stretch into infinity toward that invisible shore? I cannot see, but I must trust, mustn't I? Otherwise, the world would ooze or flow or pour, flooding the unseen boundaries. Is it only my trust that holds it so? Is it only my trust that holds the world, the universe together? How flimsy, how feeble that can be. Trust. Like faith, it wavers. Better to hold on to love. That fills the space between, that laps at my toes, seeping upwards to my soul, summoning me with its sweet scent to dive in and traverse the unknown to the shore I cannot see, for the connection I merely sense. Better to hold on to love and gaze together toward the farther shore.
Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right. This is a great night. Vinny, you're up, and Judy, not Judy Turk, is up next.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tony. Barbara, Doreen, you were both excellent, and thank you, everyone. This is some blank verse I wrote today for the poetry prompt for tomorrow, and the prompt was, use the name of a movie in your poem. The poem is called At the Movies. In the beginning, before the trailers start, you find yourself the perfect seat and sit and hope and pray the chatterboxes stay away. No one with a 10-gallon hat or a screaming child sit down in front of you. You have your popcorn and your Pepsi Cola. It would have been Coke, but the theater doesn't carry any Coke or Coke products. Instead of arguing, you acquiesced with the less bubbly version of the two as you chew on Swedish fish, and you wish you had the foresight to wisely pocket a candy bar from the fridge, or at least stop at the dollar store where nothing's $1 anymore to get your fix. You wish the people 2 rows to your left would stop talking about the late King Lear and Hamlet. You want to correct them both, but remember the line about giving bad advice and remain silent and pray for the house lights to dim when you realize the seat you're sitting in is covered in a mashup of partially chewed gum and ketchup and some other mystery mixture only found in the movie house during a matinee in the middle of a 3-day holiday when empty, when everyone else is gone with the wind. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you very much. All right. Judy, you're up, and Ronald, I think you're going to bring us home. I think you might have done that last time too. So we'll, and where I got to find you, Judy. There you are.
Okay. So Tony, this one's an abecedarian. Is that too long? It's 26 lines.
Just read it. I guess we guess we're okay.
It's apropos for today. In black and white, auburn hair, glossy and sleek in a ponytail, she blows smoke into swirls above, holds a cigarette she's bummed on the bus to the demonstration in Albany from the handsome ex-soldier back from France. I see them as if in a film noir, meeting one another's eyes, greeting each other in glamorous black and white. He with the thin line across his chin, she intrigued by his rugged demeanor, not jaded, but slightly scarred. She's standing, and he kids with her when she asks for his seat, laughs and offers her his lap. They marry 4 months later, their future not traditional, no white picket fence. He climbs over fences, leaflets factories, organizes picket lines. They ask of the world many questions. In dungarees and plaid flannel shirt, she remains committed to just causes, sings folk songs of grief and hope, strums her guitar. Together they devote themselves to underdogs, the unseen, unserved, undone, visit the dark side of human nature, risk all. They want people of color to have the same rights as whites. Friends are exed from jobs, homes, families, cities, life. Yet my parents survived, slightly scarred, as they fought zealously to repair the world.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so unless I missed anybody, and I don't think that I have, Ronald, the floor is yours. Take us on home.
Okay. This one was published in 2016 in Anti-Heroin Chic. That's a magazine that I had the honor of partially naming. I put the anti in. This called For the Widow of Edward J. O'Connor Jr., my dear friend and the best poet I have ever known. I join you in your dance of dissonance as you tramp on, wearied through a life of sorts, a machine off course, a telling tale of woven woe, discordant splendor, till we meet again in this spoof of our swollen grief, this wonder of wonders, this life that we live. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I ask everybody to unmute themselves, and let's give a nice round of applause to Barbara and Dee Dee. And as always, I thank you very much, everybody, for participating. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Take care, everybody.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you again.
Well, everyone.
Everyone.
Come back.
Take care, be well.
Well,
Yeah.
bye-bye.